Welcome everybody to this week and holy banana bread. What a week it has been. Oh, we got lots of news that we can talk about. And we're definitely going to get to some as we first of all just get through with a couple of simple hellos. We got crypto larva in the house. Big buyer sale this upcoming week. Be prepared. Yes. And the big story is going to definitely tie into that comment. So we will definitely get to that. And we got channel member Tim Carroll in the house. Hello, Candace and crew, he says. So I almost said hello, Candace, to Tim. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And of course, I also want to give a big, huge welcome to all of you who are watching this on the replay, because a lot of you guys do that. And I am grateful for you guys who do that. It gets a little bit of traffic and it gives you guys a chance to interact. And as well, when you are watching the replay, feel free to still take part. You can still hit up the comments below that if you got some questions or just some comments on whatever we were talking about that week. And that's always appreciated. All right. So the big news, of course, is going to be all about banks. But before we get to that, the other less big news, but probably the news that's affecting all of us the most, is that time change last night. Holy cow. I have been off all day. Because like I said last week, I was so used to just basically waking up when the sun just started creaking over the horizon. That was my alarm clock. And so, yeah, that alarm clock came at 7 o'clock this morning. So put me about 45 minutes out of skew all day, but I've recovered. It'll be now. I guess the challenge is going to be just getting used to it more than anything else. So it is interesting. There's a talk every time we have a time change. There is talk on both sides of the border about let's do away with this whole daylight savings standard time change thing every year. And I know there's been legislation in BC that got passed saying that we're not going to do it anymore, but we can't change it. We can't go to not doing it anymore until the US does because of trading concerns. They want to be on the same time as the West Coast of the United States. So it's up to the US for us to actually get around to getting rid of that. And, well, right now I think the US has a lot more to worry about than the time change. But we're going to get to that momentarily. We got Alan in the house. Hello, Alan. Great to see you. And we got Nancy Danter in the house. Hello, Nancy. It is good to see you as well. All right. Let's jump into holy banana bread. I just had like 5 or 6, a whole bunch of stuff just flooded the stream. Let's just quickly catch up, and then we'll go to that first news story. Muggsy is in the house. Muggsy finally made it to a live stream. Welcome, Muggsy. And we got Jordan in the house. Hello there, Candace and everyone. It's passed the Senate in the USA. Canada says they'll do it if they do. Yeah, exactly. Both of us want to do it. I would like to just... And here's the thing. I don't even care. Put us on daylight standard times forever. Put us on standard time forever. Or split it right in the middle. And then finally Newfoundland would be on our time. But do something. That's what I would say. But I'm kind of hesitant to think they'll ever get anything done. But I hope they do. Chad's in the house. Chad says, good day, everybody. And we got Joe Snyder in the house. I wish we could end daylight savings time. Absolutely. And Mr. Red Taco, the Americans will switch like they did to liters and kilometers per hour. Oh, wait a moment. Well, at least they use kilometers on Star Trek, so we got that much. And Mr. Red Taco says, afternoon, everybody. Okay, so the big news story this week, Silicon Valley Bank. So SVB, if you have not heard about what happened with Silicon Valley Bank, then you probably were unconscious on Friday and maybe even yesterday. Now, last week we were talking about Silvergate Capital and how they were planning to enter liquidation. So they were the first bank to sort of kind of pack up their bags and fold up. Well, SVP, Silicon Valley Bank, they ran into they had an interesting week. So I'm going to give you a bit of a background on this just to sort of catch people up. So what Silicon Valley Bank, they basically handled a lot of the US tech startup companies and also healthcare too. A lot of healthcare startup companies used SVB as well. So they were pretty much the bank of choice. So we're talking a lot of companies. In fact, almost 50% of tech and healthcare startup companies were using SVB. So this is pretty big. So what exactly happened? Well, it all goes back to rate hikes. So because of the rate hikes, as well as a slumping tech sector, it resulted in a lot of these startups pulling cash from the bank. So they were pulling cash from SVB to pay their lights, basically. And what this ended up resulting is it resulted in a bit of a cash crunch for SVB. So they were running out of money because when you deposit money, obviously there's this whole fractional reserve banking. So they only keep a small portion of the money. But that portion was drying up really fast. So what they did is SVP, they went and they decided, okay, we're going to sell some of our securities. So on Thursday, they basically announced that they had suffered a $1.8 billion tax hit on a $21 billion sale of securities that they were basically doing because they were trying to quickly raise cash so that they could meet some of the demands of these tech startups that were pulling money out that they needed just to cover their bills and everything else. At that point, they also then announced that they were going to raise another 2.25 billion with a stock sale, both common and preferred shares. This caused a little bit of chaos in the bank. And what it did is it started to trigger what's called a bank run, where clients were basically lining up to go and get their money because they were losing confidence in SVB. Now, to make it even worse, on Thursday, some major venture capital funds companies out there, they basically started telling their clients, get your money out of SVB now. There's trouble. Something's going to happen. Get your money out. And so that's what they started doing. And what ended up happening is, first of all, the share price of SVB, it plunged by 60% on Thursday. So it started Thursday around $268 American. And by later on Thursday, it was down to 165 American. And then on Friday, it dropped another 65%, all the way down to $105. So this caused a huge problem. As more and more money got pulled out, it basically caused the banks to collapse when they ran out of money. They had no money to give anybody. So regulators quickly moved in and they seized control of the bank. And so once they did that, it was put under the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. So that's that word you probably heard, FDIC. So it was put under their receivership. So there's a lot of ramifications to what has happened. So first of all, keep in mind, these guys were the banking partner for almost half of the listed US venture-backed tech and healthcare companies. So that's a lot of companies. Some of these companies are going to absolutely be wiped out by this. So there will be companies that are just no longer companies because of what has happened here. So here's the issue. The FDIC, they only cover up to $250,000. So if anybody who had more than $250,000 in that bank, they're out of luck. They'll get their $250,000 through the FDIC, and then they might get a little bit more later, depending on what assets are able to be sold as they sort of go through the whole bankruptcy and everything else in this. So it's pretty bad. Now, here's another statistic that's horrible. 93% of SVB's $661 million in deposits were completely uninsured. So that's money that may never get back to its original owners. So this is going to have ramifications for sure right across the whole financial system. Now, on Friday, Canadian banks, they erased roughly $19.7 billion in value. And this was basically a big sell-off of financial stocks. So Scotiabank, Bank of Montreal, and TD Bank, all of those banks fell at least 2% on Friday. So, I mean, why is that? Why is that affecting a lot of our banks? A lot of our banks are heavily invested in the US. So this is going to impact us as Canadians. However, the good news is our banks have a lot of liquidity. So there's no danger of any of our major banks falling because they have that liquidity. So we should all be good in that case. All right. Let me just jump here on these comments because I know as I was doing the news, we got a few comments that popped in. So Chad said, Saskatchewan has no daylight savings time, never late or early. Yeah, exactly. That's why I was saying to somebody, I said, if I ever move to Saskatchewan, it's probably to avoid daylight savings. And let's see here. Mr. Red Taco says, I guess I've been unconscious. That explains the lack of memory. That would do it. And Nancy's saying the 16th largest bank. Yeah, they were one of the largest banks out there. So when you hear that word too big to fail, take it with a grain of salt. Trevor says, hi, y'all. And Chad says, a matter of time before USA Feds will have to pivot. They already raised the debt ceiling, so they won't default on their loans. So here's the thing, too. Depending on how bad this deepens within the U.S. financial system, the Fed might actually get into a situation where they may have to start cutting rates just to try to stimulate the economy enough to prevent what this can all turn into. This whole week coming up, it's going to be very interesting to watch the ramifications of what is happening. So it's going to be really, really, really interesting to watch. I have a feeling next week's show, we're going to have a lot of bombshells to be sorting through the things that happened during the week. So it'll be a good one for sure, but we'll still make this one good anyway. Mr. Red Taco says, so they poured gas on a fire. There's a lot of gas on the fire at this point. Yeah, absolutely. We get to that point where there's only, because of fractional reserve banking, if everybody decides, let's say here in Canada, if every single TD customer decided they wanted to withdraw their money from TD and they all lined up to do it, well, TD is not going to be able to pay out all of that. They may have good liquidity, but there's only so far you can get with good liquidity. So it's a situation where the banking system is a little more fragile, I think, than people realize. But you normally don't run into these type of situations where everybody and their dog shows up looking for their money. But in this case, that's exactly what they got. So it's kind of interesting. Chad says, no different than Lehman Brothers back in the day. Yeah. Crypto says, Coinbase and Tesla will get hit from this. The sales will be intense in the next 2 weeks. I'm itching. I'm so excited for these potential sales. Yeah. Absolutely. There will definitely be some good sales out there. And it will be interesting just to see crypto's full reaction to this. I know that there's going to be the entire market, I think, is going to be very fun to watch in the coming week. Maybe not so fun if you're losing money, but keep in mind, unless you are in a situation where you think a company is going to go under. So, for example, if you were in SVD or SVB, you would have wanted to get out of that. But I think most of our investments are probably going to be completely okay. We may see some downside. We may see a red week. But if you hold your stuff, not panic sell, you shouldn't be realizing losses, which is good. All right. Enid says, hi. Hello. How are you? And let's get in here. Wow. We've got comments flying in like crazy. Sisso says, hi, everybody. Hello, Sisso. Good to see you. Mr. Red Taco. So if you have more than 250K, they could up Pooh Creek without a paddle. Yes, that is absolutely true. Because after the FDIC gets all of that money out, so once you've been given your insurance, then whatever's left of the company, whatever assets they can sell, obviously not everybody's going to get their money back. So probably, well, we all know how it goes. It's probably going to be the bigger dogs that get their money first, and then they'll sort of peter it down. And there might be some left if you're midway down, but it doesn't look good. And here's the other interesting news is that the CEO of the company apparently sold a whole bunch of his shares weeks ago. Well, actually more than weeks, probably about a month ago, because I think he had put it in January that he was going to be selling this year. So there's a whole bunch of insider selling, and that's why insider selling is important. If you're invested in a company and you see a lot of insider selling, there may be something wrong with that company and you want to pay attention. You may even want to consider getting out if it's really out of control like that. Another thing too, they even started giving their employees bonuses just before all of the crap hit the fan. So it's like, huh? So it's definitely very, very interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if there's even some legal stuff that ends up coming out of this in the end, but we'll have to see how this unrolls. Crypto says the contagion ripple will affect many types of sectors. Yeah, it will absolutely do that. And Chad says, what average person has 250K in bank, cash in bank? Well, it's not the average people. It's all the startups. So if you're a startup company, you may have, let's say you manage to get together $500,000 in investment for your startup, and you have that in there, then all of a sudden you've lost half of your investment. So half of your startup money. So that's where we're talking about. That is money that would be used, for example, for your payroll, for your expenses, maybe for your inventory. So it's going to be companies. And this is how it will really boil down. So let's say you have a startup in there, and let's say you had $1 million in investments. All of a sudden you've lost, most of that, and you've got the insurance is giving you 250,000. Well, all of a sudden, if you can't operate and you can't pay your employees, that's where it starts affecting everybody. It starts to boil down to these people. So it's not really good to have this kind of thing happen. All right, and Joe says, I'm wondering if SVB will be bought by a larger bank for pennies on the dollar. That would be interesting. And here's a really funny thing. Elon Musk in his in Twitter, somebody actually asked him if he would think about buying SVB, so that way there he could have like a Twitter bank. And Elon said, "That's a good idea." So that was Elon. We've got some more about Elon coming up momentarily once we get there, but it is an opportunity, because here's the thing. Just to get a bank charter, it's a very hard thing. You can't just sort of walk in and buy a bank charter. So if you were somebody who wanted to cut through all of the tape and get a bank charter and all of this, buying something like SVB would be an interesting move. So we'll have to see what happens. But that's a really good comment, Joe. I like that. Crypto says Elon is open-minded with purchasing, apparently. Yeah, that is exactly what I was saying. So he's open-minded to do that. An SVB, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. All right, and we got a super chat here from Nitrin. Thank you very much for Nitten. I certainly appreciate it. Every super chat like that goes back into the channel. It all helps. So you are the GOAT for the day. That's unless somebody decides to take it away from you. But right now, Nitin, you are the GOAT. You're awesome. Hello, and hello, Patricia. It's good to see you. Everyone, it's an accumulation. That's right. Absolutely. And here's Nitrin, our GOAT again, saying, hi all. 204 man says, keep your eye out for defaulted U.S. vacation properties like in 2008. Yeah, I'm going to say this. For those of you who don't really remember 2008 very well, this is an opportunity for you to really pay attention to what's going on, because I think the economy is going to I think the ramifications are going to be really, really interesting. I know Yellen has even come out and said that we're not going to bail them out. So this is going to be really, really interesting. I mean, it's terrible that it's happening, and I hate to see this type of stuff happening, but the geeky finance side of me is like, okay, this is going to be cool. Let's watch and see what happens. Yeah. Hopefully it's not going to be as bad as I think it's going to be. So that's kind of where I am on that. All right. And Life's Little Excursions. Could this be a buying opportunity of a lifetime? I think it could. I think it could certainly be. I think there's going to be a lot of really good sales on. Now, I don't know if it's going to be so much on the Canada side. We may see some really good sales on the American side. So, for example, people who are interested in Tesla, if this hits Tesla a little bit, Tesla always bounces back. We always know this. If this were to actually hurt Tesla and bring them down a bit, that would be an amazing buying opportunity. I would sort of pay attention. There's probably going to be some interesting U.S. stocks that are going to that are going to go on sale, and you'll probably see. Well, I mean, the Canadian banks, a lot of them have already dropped 2%. So if people panic, and people do, people love to panic, we could see some very interesting stuff in the market. And crypto says DCA is the way of you're not trading. Yeah. Well, dollar cost averaging is always the best way to accumulate. However, if you're in a situation where something that is blue chip, something you have full confidence is, drops because of a black swan event, then you can get some great deals. Like I would have loved, let's say on the day they announced the pandemic, I would have loved to have had a whole bunch of investing money that day because, there was some incredible sales on that you could definitely have taken advantage of. So, that's kind of cool. Chad says crypto already going up since last night. And that's good. It's good to see that. Let's see here. Nancy says USDC dropped to 87 cents. Trading was halted there for a short term. Yes, I saw that. I know that there was a little bit of interest. Well, here's the thing too. I mean, because you had two banks now, and the first one they were more of a crypto bank. So I think there's going to be ramifications right across the board. I don't think we're going to know what they're going to be fully until they all happen. So, all right, Simply No Name. What do you think about Fear Capital? Is it okay to keep the stocks or sell it? I think on the Canada side right now, I think we're okay. So I'm not in a panic mode. Like I'm not thinking about selling any of my financial assets of any shape right now. I think we're good. But I would watch. I would pay attention. And if you get to a point that you feel in your gut that it's really, really looking bad, or you start to see something happening with their fundamentals, there's nothing wrong with stepping back, especially if you're in the green and you're nervous. That's a perfect time to step back. But I don't think we're going to see that type of collapsing on the Canadian side. So I think we're good that way. All right. Hockey Nuts in the house. Howdy, folks. All right. And Chad says DCA is the way to go. Yeah, I love DCA. All right. And Paul is in the house. Happy Sunday, everybody. So would you say HMAX is a good buy right now? I do like HMAX. I have HMAX in my RRSP. So HMAX is a new Hamilton ETF, and they basically invest in Canadian financials. So I'm okay. I think HMAX is strong. Also, I'm not worried about BK either. That's another one that goes into Canadian financials. All right, Cisco. Everyone, it's accumulation time. Crypto is stable after all of the turbulence. Well, here's the thing. If crypto makes it through this and maintains a lot of stability and really doesn't go down much, that would be a good sign, I would say, overall for crypto. So pay attention to that as well, especially if you're a crypto investor. And Crypto Larvae says, hold out on buying any crypto till at least Friday after the FOMC meeting. My bet is Powell still raises rates. Okay. And we're going to talk a little bit about that too, but I'm in the same camp. I think he is going to raise rates. All right. And let's see here. Chuck says, they say 90% of accumulation we're more than 250,000. So yeah, it's like I said, because they did a lot of startups, and we're not just talking US tech startups, we're also talking healthcare. There's a lot of money that's tied up in there. There's a lot of money that's going to be lost. All right. And let's see here. Chuck Laffo says, hi. They say 90%. Oh, I just read this one. Sorry. Let's jump over to Chad. CPI data to think on Tuesday. Yeah, CPI data. That's going to be a very important CPI. And we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. All right, I got 250 in the bank, $2.50, that is. And Jill says a lot of companies get there around the funding and it's held up in the bank, and a lot of them have over. Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the point I was making a little bit earlier. Tim Carroll. Elon Musk says he's open to the idea of buying crisis-hit Silicon Valley Bank and turning Twitter into a digital bank. Yeah, and I have heard about that. So that's something to watch to see whether he does. But I'll tell you, here's the thing. If he does, you know where that money's coming. He's going to be selling Tesla shares. So that could hurt Tesla's price or provide at least another buying opportunity. Round A and round B venture. Yes, absolutely. That's why a lot of the venture funds were the ones getting in there saying, get out now, because there was a lot of venture tied into this. And all right. Meet Kevin asked that question. Yeah, there we go. So if Meet Kevin thinks it, maybe there's some, maybe there's something to it. I'm just going by basically what he said in his Twitter. So take that with a grain of salt until Elon actually gets into it. If the U.S. is going to hike all the rates, we will be getting the hike soon. Otherwise, CAD is going to go down, all interrelated. And that is the interesting thing. So, yeah, I mean, if the U.S. keeps rate hiking and we stay completely still, there could be a bit of an impact on the Canadian dollar. But we'll have to sort of watch once again and sort of see how that is all going to show out. All right. Let's see here. Friday, I stay up all night. Oh, you mean USDC? All right. And we've got Jordan in here. Jordan has taken over the role of the GOAT. Thank you, Jordan. Get yourself a coffee, tea, or another from Bon and I. Thank you very much for the time you invest for us here on YouTube. Keep up the great work. Cheers. Thank you so much. Gotta love the GOATs. All right, and Chad says, let's see here. Yes, typo. Okay. Apple phone, pineapple, thumbs. Okay, I don't know what. Oh, that's because you were making. Never mind. BMO is offering 5% now savings account. That's fantastic. And it doesn't surprise me because a lot of the smaller banks, like EQ Bank, for example, have much better interest rates. But I'm happy to see one of the bigger ones come in. And that's going to be interesting too. Like with this financial thing, like I think places like EQ Bank, as long as your bank is insured and you don't have a ton more money than the insurance, you are safe in Canada. So I think in Canada though, the insurance only goes up to $100,000. So, and that's, and of course it doesn't hurt to put your money in more than one bank. If you've got 200,000 and you want insurance on the whole thing, put 100,000 in bank A, put 100,000 in bank B, and you should be good. All right. Let's see here. Thytran says, will China fully remove restriction help crude oil price tank again to record high? Thanks. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. Right now, I don't think you're going to see a lot of movements on oil at this moment, only because this current bank thing, I think a lot of countries are going to sort of sit back and watch and see whether they have any ramifications that move outside of North America. But I could see China. I could see China doing that. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's going to be interesting. And keep in mind too, the U.S. still needs to refill their reserves too. So there's a lot of opportunity, I think, for the price of oil to go up. So we'll have to see what happens with that. What's the balance requirement on the BMO savings at 5%? Good question. That I don't know. And Chad says, not sure, Jill. Quickly read the article. Anyone know what's the difference between a bank and a credit union? That's a good question. My understanding is a credit union is more of a sort of a cooperative type bank. So it's not like one corporation owning it, but rather it's a co-op of people or a community, things like that. But keep in mind, I could be completely wrong on that. That was just my understanding. So if somebody wants to look that up and drop it in the chat, we can definitely do that. So that's interesting. I wonder if that is for every person utilizing the BMO savings account. That's a very tempting stock to watch for insolvency if they are offering a 5% yield off the money invested. And then Jill says, okay, I'll have to look into that because that's a really good rate. The highest I've seen is 2.5% to 3%. Yeah, absolutely. Chad says he thinks the minimum is $4,000. So interesting. Deep dive on BMO. Yeah, well, they are a company that I will eventually deep dive all of the Canadian banks. I just did National Bank, so I was happy with that, but BMO will put that on my list, crypto, because I would like to get to them as well. Hockey Nut ZWK dropped huge good putting on drip. So yeah, there we go. There we go. I finally caught up. I can jump to the next news article so that we can get that out. The next article is all about Elon again. So this is just a little fun one. I thought after that bank one, we'll do one that's kind of fun. So Elon is reportedly planning to build a town. He's purchased thousands of acres. I think right now he's up to like 3,500 acres of land just outside of Austin. And he wants to create a town for his employees. He's going to call it Snailbrook. So, and the reason why he's calling it Snailbrook is his drilling company, so the one that makes tunnels, I think they're called Boring. They have a mascot called Snailbrook because he said that he wanted their driller for making tunnels to move slightly faster than a snail, which is where that name came from. So he is looking for this town to be a place where his employees can live and work. He wants to also offer them substantially less rent or charges for rent than what the market offers. So it's going to be interesting. He has started putting stuff in there already. So I'm like, okay. I was reading it in the Wall Street Journal. So it's interesting. It looks like they've showed maps of it. So there's definitely stuff happening there. So we'll have to see how that goes. That will be very, very interesting. All right. Jordan says, a bank works to make itself money. A credit union works to make you money. A union uses its subscribers' money to make them more money. A bank uses your money to make them money and keep 98% of it. Okay, so there we go. So technically, from this definition, you would expect better returns with a credit union. So, you'd have to, I was with a credit union as a child. That was my first bank, was a credit union. But I wasn't happy with the interest. But keep in mind, I had put like about $100 into a credit union. And a year later, I thought I'd have like $500, but I didn't. And I totally didn't understand finances. So I was very disappointed. But, that's what happens with kids if they don't understand money. Let's see. Nation Bank makes the most profits. And Tim says, just to transfer and open a new account, it says promo 402. So, okay. So it may only be a promo for a specific amount of time. And that's a lot of these really good deals that you sometimes get with the big six. They're just simply a promo to get you in the door. And then after a year or something, it goes back to their normal lower rates. So keep that in mind. Sometimes it's not worth going over there for, to have good rates for a year if you have somebody who has better rates permanently. So keep that in mind. Vic is in the house. Are people already lining up at SVB branches? Well, right now, SVB is closed. So the regulators have put the kibosh on them. So there's nobody lining up for anything at this moment. All right. And Chad says, Jordan BNS pays me a 2.2% savings. Connects pays 0.9%. So, and 2.2 is actually not bad. A lot. I know for the longest time, most of the big six were paying like 0.01. And that used to frustrate me. I was like, oh my God, it's not even a percent. Considering how much they're making off of your money, it's like, I'd like to see more of that coming back to me. Crypto Larvae says Monday FDIC takes over and they will line up and do the old bank run apparently. So we'll have to see how that's going to work and how they're going to organize that. But right now, Monday is that date where apparently you can get if you've got it insured, you can get that up to 250,000. So we'll have to see how that all works out. Vic says, anyone using RCEI, which is the new RBC monthly income ETF? I do not have anything in that one. I haven't even looked at that one, Vic. So I should take a look at that. So you went from $100 to $100 It was kind of like that. It wasn't very much. It was disappointment. It was so much disappointment. If only I had bought a share of something instead. And Sat on that for 20 years. Chad says, yes, Vic. Okay. Jordan says, that means your credit union is very conservative with its investments. Not to mention, a credit union has much less to work with. Yeah, absolutely. Chad says, more or less. Connexus is the 8th largest Canadian credit union. All right. And, everybody, I think, will agree with you, Mr. Red Taco. Bank fees are very annoying. Thursday alone, SVB bank run was for 42 billion. Yeah, there was just a lot. I saw a girl on CNN. She was a CEO for a healthcare startup, and she said she got a cryptic message from her venture group that basically just sent her this message telling her to go there immediately and get her money out, and she did, and she was able to get everything out. So luckily, she had a happy ending. All right, and we've got here, let's see. Connexus, no fees, 30 transactions per month. That's not too bad. RCI requires a minimum of $100K investment for $40 a month, I believe. Holy banana bread. That's a pretty big one. Sort of reminds me of Grayscale in the United States. Like if you want to get in on their fund, you need to put a fairly large amount up. Chad says, but charge $5 to become a shareholder. And Vic says, Manitoba credit unions have unlimited guarantees versus CDIC limit of $100,000 per account. And that's that one I was mentioning as well with the Canadian banks. And let's see, moving there, Vic. Okay. All right. So that was Snailbrook. I got one small story before we get to our next big story. So WestJet is taking over Sunwing. Apparently the government has said that is okay. So it'll be interesting because that will actually give WestJet access to the Bahamas. But I think they're going to have their work cut out for them because Sunwing had a lot of issues with cancellations. And I think some of their planes are kind of old and probably need a lot more maintenance on it. So it'd be interesting to see, though, if WestJet does get a flight down to the Bahamas out of this. So that might be, a good vacation thing for Canadians, which would be kind of good. Let's see here. Honestly, for a bank with $200 billion, a loss of $1.8 billion should not have resulted in a bank run. Well, you got to realize, though, even though they had that $1.8 billion tax loss, the fact that they were selling stuff to try to make the ends meet, that was the bigger issue. It wasn't so much that they lost the $1.8 billion. It was that when you see your bank selling things so that they can so they can pay deposits, that is a scary thing. And once people see that type of thing, that's what kind of initiates that fear for a bank run. All right, so better job offer. And okay, did you know there are places in the workday that have no monthly bank fees? Not in Canada. In the workday that have no monthly bank fees. Well, there are places, there are banks that have no monthly bank fees, which is great, but that's one of the things. I think bank fees are just a complete ripoff. Like even if you have money just sitting in a bank and you're not doing anything with it, you're still paying that monthly service fee just to have that bank account. So to me, that's just not a great situation. Vic says, I have Achievia online account, online arm of their credit union and open to all Canadians. FDIC must have had a busy weekend. Yeah, I have a feeling that they're going to have their week is going to be pretty hectic. Wondering how long the Canadian bank stocks can go. Well, that's a good question. I still think we do have good liquidity in our Canadian banks, so I think we're going to be okay. There may be people who panic a little bit, and you may see a few more drops. But it's not going to be a situation where we really have to be concerned about Canadian banks starting to go under. That is for sure. Now, Mr. Red Taco says, oh, really? I was going to say, I still pay if I don't use it. Yeah, exactly. A lot of banks are like that. And the freaking Oracle is in the house. Pick a bank that allows you to have free banking if holding a certain amount of balance all month. Yeah, and that's a thing. A lot of banks are like that. Like if you maintain a balance over 5,000, then there's no charges and no fees. So, and yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking about. Chad's mentioning BNS. So Scotiabank, it's like I think it's 5,000 at Scotiabank. And then you have no fee, which is kind of great. Okay, so the other big news, and this is funny. when the jobs report was supposed to be the big news for the week, and then the bank hit. So we had 2 jobs reports come out. So in Canada, for February, we added 22,000 jobs. We were only expected to add about 10,000. So we came in a little bit hot. And the worst part about that is that the wages actually rose 5.4. That's their year over year. Now, we had it below 5 for the last couple of months. So that's a little bit concerning. So, that's one of those things we don't want to see, but, it's happened. So we have to sort of wonder how that is going to play into whether or not the Bank of Canada is going to stay on the, not raising, if they're going to stay in the pause, or whether this might be enough for them to come out. We'll have to see. I think it's probably going to come down to CPI more than anything else. Now, in the US, they also had our jobs reports. They added 311,000. They had, it was estimated they were only going to add 225,000. So they did come in hot, but their wage gains actually slowed. So they only had a 4.6% year over year. So that is fantastic. So I would say that this job report doesn't push us to that 50 basis point rise when they meet. I believe it's the 22nd. But the CPI, which is coming out this week, and we'll get to the stuff coming out this week, the CPI will definitely be hugely important. And now I'm going to get back to chat here in a second. I just got a couple small news stories. We'll just zip through them, and then rest of it will be us in the chat. So the Girl Guides. So the Girl Guide cookies are going up, and they're not just going up a little bit. Inflation is hitting Girl Guide cookies by 20%. So now a box of $5 cookies is going to cost you $6. But, those mint ones are kind of worth it. So you'll have to decide whether you still want to pay it. And keep in mind that all the Girl Guides are doing is they want to make the same amount for the Girl Guides. So this inflation is reflecting the cost to make these cookies that they're getting from them. Now, last news story has to deal with our good old buddies at Tim Hortons. So they had a roll up the rim glitch where it told people that they won the $10,000 when they didn't. So Tim Hortons, of course, fixed the glitch and told a lot of unhappy people that no, sorry, it was a glitch. You didn't actually win. So there's a lot of angry people, but Tim Hortons, to try to save face, has said, okay, well, sorry, here's a $50 gift card to make up for that $10,000 you didn't win. So we'll have to see how well that goes over. I know that there's been a few people imagine if you were one of those people and it told you that you won $10,000 and you were like, oh, freaking out and telling everybody you won $10,000. And you were planning what you were going to do with that $10,000. And then all of a sudden you find out, oh, it was a glitch. Eek, that wouldn't be too much fun. So coming up next week, just very quickly, we got the US CPI coming out on Tuesday. And on Wednesday, we also have the PPI, so the price producer index as well. And on the channel, we got coming out on Monday, 5 restaurant stocks you can sink your teeth into. And then on Thursday, we did the vote. Everybody wants a deep dive on Canoe. So Canoe is up next. And then we are going to have a video on Saturday. It's going to be more of an informational, kind of educational video, but it's all about covered calls. All right. Now it's all you guys. It's all you guys. I got to catch up with you. Here we go. Let's see. Where were we? All right. You guys are just throwing stuff fast. All right. Tim Carroll mentions neobank 2.5%. Is the Fed 25 basis points after this SVB fiasco on March 22nd? Well, we have to see how this unrolls. But I think if everything unrolls fairly okay, we're probably looking at a 25 basis unless that CPI comes in hot. If that CPI comes in hot, we're probably looking at 50. And that's what Chad's thinking 50 to 75. So, and prepare for the worst. So we'll have to take a look and see how this is going to go. I have a feeling, though, this market, it's probably going to be a very red week just from all of what's going on. I think there's going to be a lot of sell-offs as people panic. So SVS is a tech bank. We all good. Well, it's not just tech. They also do healthcare. So tech and healthcare startups are their main feature. Let's see here. Girl guides setting up outside pot shops. That's a smart move. That's a very smart move. Whoever the first girl guide was that decided that she was going to sell cookies outside of a pot shop probably should get like a ribbon or something for that, because that is a great idea. Jill just saying hi to Ken. Hockey Nut laughing. And then, hey, Jill. There we go. All right. I don't know Girl Guide cookies were still around. Haven't seen those since the early 90s. I have seen them recently. You can actually, if you like the blizzards over at Dairy Queen, you can get a Girl Guide blizzard where they actually put Girl Guide cookies in it. They're pretty darn good. Chad says, Circle K and Fire and Flower are in the same location, Brampton and Calgary. Also, HDIF. All right. There is a lady who has already gotten a lawyer. And I think that's about the Tim Hortons, right? Because, you know, it's a kind of thing. If it's you know, I'd love to know exactly how many people got this glitch. If it weren't a lot of people, I think Tim Hortons should just pay them the 10,000 and, you know, keep the good PR. But I mean, I can see if it happened to, like, you know, thousands and thousands of people, perhaps then they can't. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with this lawyer. So that would be an interesting one to follow for sure. I keep saying interesting. That would be a great thing to follow for sure. Oh, you didn't know 10,000 is equal to $50? I did not know that. The lawyer will charge 12,000 plus 50% of her wins. So in other words, she had better win or she is going to be absolutely in the hole. All right. Adelio says, with SVB shenanigans, let's say you have about 500,000 in there, 250,000 covered by the FDIC. What will happen to the other 250,000, even if they get bought over by another bank? Well, that's a really good question. It depends on how it all boils down. So if it's a straight up liquidation, what will happen is the FDIC will sell all of their assets and they will take whatever is left and then they will divvy it out and they will probably have it. These things, to me, these things should be fair, but they're never fair. So it really depends. Like if you've got a lot of political connections, I bet you'll end up getting more than somebody who perhaps doesn't. Now, if they get bought over by another bank, I think it's still going to be kind of a similar thing. I think that other bank will do their best with some of the assets, but I don't think there's any guarantee at this point in time. The only guarantee you really have is that FDIC. And let's just hope that there's some more assets hidden and locked away that can help cover as many people as possible. Let's see. The freaking Oracle says terms and conditions say it has to be verified. People suing will lose. So there we go. There we go. It looks like she'll probably lose, but you know, some people do have to fight. I wouldn't fight it personally. Can't win. Yeah, it's kind of a situations like that. But I have seen people win court cases I never thought they could win, like that woman who had the coffee spill on herself from McDonald's and she sued them for it being too hot. I'm like, seriously? How did that get the traction? Because in my case, is if you're in a car and you spill coffee on yourself, well, it's because you probably were holding it in a place that wasn't designed for coffee cups. But you know what? I guess her argument was that the coffee was too hot. But I don't know. I always thought coffee was supposed to be hot. Well, unless it's my coffee. I like my coffee a little bit more not so hot. But that's just me, and I'm weird that way. Let's see. Rates go up, silver, gold go down. Time to buy more metals. It may be, and that's the thing. It's one of these things where we need to sort of watch the market and take a look. There's going to be opportunities, definitely. You know, if you're sitting on a stack of cash, you're probably going to be very happy with some of the opportunities you'll see come along this week. The big thing will be for you to do some due diligence and make sure that the opportunities you're grabbing are the better ones, right? So let's see here. Jordan said, yes, in Crypto Larvae. How do you think that cruise line stocks will potentially ever recover with the amounts of debt they received over the COVID crisis? For example, CCL is so cheap these days. Yeah, it's going to take a long time. For one, I don't think people are fully over COVID per se. I know, I had a cousin, she went on a cruise, like, quite literally, it was a few months ago, and she managed to get COVID while she's on the cruise. So I think they have to kinda get past that, and I think that's gonna take time. So I think they're gonna be struggling for a long time, and I think cruises are going to be cheap. So if you're not afraid of COVID and you wanna cruise, this may be your opportunity to do that. Um, but yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if some cruise lines, absolutely fold, or you see some of them at least, cruise lines buying out other cruise lines. It'll be really interesting to see. I personally wouldn't invest in a cruise line right now if I was in an investing mood. That's for sure. All right, I stay and whoops, and Chad says I stay away from. I got the CCL at 6-ish. Okay. And Chad says from air and sea. Yeah. So you stay away from air and sea. Okay, that's fair enough. Nice grab on the $6. Yeah, that was a nice grab. Absolutely. So those cruisers are pretty intense bunch and love cruises. Yeah, exactly. I would rather, if I was ever going to wanted to go out on the sea, I'd rather rent a sailboat and go out, or do something like that. At least, have a little more control of your own. And plus, I've watched so many movies where some of these ports always seem very shady. Sold CCL at 10 and moved on. Not bad. If you bought it for 6 and sold it at 10, that is a good deal. Crypto larvae. I heard they are still packing slips. It's just such a risky bet with the liquidity and war. I would love to accumulate some, just genuinely curious on others' opinions. Yeah, it's one of those interesting things. Like, for example, I know with Air Canada, one of the big things with Air Canada that we're talking about is, when is it time to buy Air Canada? Well, it's already happened. That was when Air Canada was down around $17. I don't think we're going to get back down there. I think right now we're sitting above 20, probably I think closer to 21, 22, somewhere in that vicinity. So you may have already missed the boat on the best time, but I think these things are going to start to continue to improve. You may have to be patient with them, but when it comes to the cruise lines, they're going to take a lot longer than definitely than the airlines will. All right, so let's see here. Average person gains 8 pounds on a cruise. That does not surprise me. Yeah, there's a lot of food there, except for seasick people. Yeah, okay. That is kind of funny. But then again, Vic, with inflation and 86% Canadian can't afford $500 emergencies, who can afford a cruise unless they acquire more debt? And that's true. I mean, how many people have that money right now to do all of these luxury stuff? I would see people would probably be more likely to fly to, just to fly to a tropical place, because you can get some pretty, it's really interesting. I heard as well that there's like, I know with Ottawa anyway, there's a new flight that's going to be going between Ottawa and Las Vegas, where you can go to Las Vegas for like under $200. I'm like, whoa, that's interesting. So I think you're going to see a little bit more of that type of stuff. I think that's a little bit safer. You're probably not going to catch COVID on a plane as much as you would on a cruise ship. All right. So you don't microwave it 12 times before you finish a cup. No way. Yeah, no, I don't let a microwave anywhere near my coffee, even if my coffee is well, I use a Yeti. So, let's just show you what a Yeti is. It's just one of these. It's very, like right now, this coffee is about 3 hours old, and it's still warm. So it's actually pretty darn good. Actually, I'm really impressed that the Yeti, because it's greenish, sometimes it'll come in and it's invisible, but because of the green screen, but not this time. So I like that. All right. Let's see here. U.S. going to give F-16 soon, and if Ukraine uses to attack inside Russia, we don't need to worry about the market. I really don't. I don't think they should be giving Russia jets, or Russia should be giving the Ukraine jets, because to me, a jet is really not a defensive weapon. So if we're going to continue to supply Ukraine with weapons, make them defensive weapons. But now I know that Russia's been firing some of these supersonic missiles that even the best air defenses right now that the Ukraine has no chance of hitting. So it's interesting. I'd just like to see that war get over. As in, I'd like to see a resolution to that war sooner than later, but I'm not going to hold my breath for that. Wear a mask and get a free cruise. Sure, why not? Russia is the only country never been conquered, and Ukraine never had an army news. Had an army. Okay. Well, it's interesting. I don't think Russia will get conquered by Ukraine by any matter. It's a matter of just, I think in Ukraine's mind, it's more or less just hold on to our land and try to make it as painful as possible that Russia gets to the point where they're like, this just isn't worth it, and then backs out. But I don't see Putin doing that. I think he's pretty focused on what he wants here. So this could be going on for a very long time. But economy-wise, this is going to impact Russia's economy. Their GDP, I think their GDP this year is supposed to shrink by about 1%. Now, initially they thought it was going to shrink bigger than that, but that's what they're now saying. It's about 1%. So we'll have to see how that all works out. Let's see. What about Flair Airlines getting 4 planes repoed? Yeah, I heard about that. So planes are, and here we go. Yeah, planes cost $50 million each, and monthly payments is $350,000 to $400,000. So yeah, it's one of those interesting things. So in the case of Flair, if they can't keep up, I mean, you could see some of the smaller discount lines start to sort of fold, not fold, but fold, yeah, or be eaten up by some of the bigger lines. So it's going to be very interesting to see the Canadian airline industry. Now, here's the bad news. The bad news is if all of the discount lines can't make their payments and start losing planes and start going under, then it's a situation where you end up with just, once again, the whole Air Canada, WestJet, and they can sort of control the prices a little bit better. But we'll have to see whether or not they can survive this. Hopefully they can. Mr. Red Taco says, I wonder if you can get an airplane from Flair for cheap. Maybe. Though apparently they're really hard to park. So you may not, you may want to think that one twice. Let's see. Insane leases on planes. I thought car payments were insane. Can be kit helicopter for like $150K, no license required. Oh, okay. I don't know a lot about that, but my brother's a pilot. Well, he used to be a pilot, so he might know a bit about it. Tim Hortons should give away a plane trip for people's troubles. Sure, why not? Color Stream Contracting says, what do you think? CIBC is a buy at $50. So Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, so CIBC, as well as Scotiabank, they both are the ones who have experienced the biggest drops in their share price, over the last year. So I still think they're both blue chip. I think they're both going to recover. So both of them, you're looking at getting a better yield because their price is depressed. Now, here's what I would do right now is if I was thinking of buying a bank, if I was thinking of buying some bank stocks and I had some money set aside for that, I would probably see what happens to the share price this week, because we did get 2%, almost 2% across the board, to be honest, on the bank prices, on the bank stocks, because of the whole issue in the States. So they may drop a little bit more. So you might be able to get it at 48 or maybe 45 if things get really bad. So that wouldn't be a bad place to start from. So I would think about that. And if you really think $50 is a good price, well, maybe throw in a limit buy and put it at 49 and see what happens. You might be able to get it a little bit cheaper. Well, that's like a half pot. I have no idea what that is. Oh, half coffee. All right. That's kind of good. It kind of is. Yeah, it's a big container. It holds a lot of coffee. Let's see. I got CM at 61, hit $80 months back, but 50 is looking more likely than 80. So yeah, it's not a bad price, and you might be able to still get it a little bit better. But if it doesn't go below 50, it's still a really good entry point. A shopping cart gets caught on a zip tie, but a country invading another one like it's butter. Yeah, I know. Let's see here. I was gonna fight with the legionnaires of Ukraine until I went down that rabbit hole being ex-military trained by the ex-airborne. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And being ex-military, you probably have a very unique perspective on this whole thing compared to those of us who have not been ex-military. Mr. Red Taco says airlines is going to be like Rogers buying Shaw. Not good for consumers. BNS to the 50s? Maybe. We'll have to look and see. Um, it's it's one of those things though. Like I don't know if it'll quite get that far, but we'll see. We'll have to take a look. All right. Oh dear. You guys are just flying the comments and I love it. Okay, let's go here. Lower, I think, Vic. So lower than 50. Ooh, we'll have to see. All times lows next 2 to 3 quarters. Well, I do believe we still got a bottom in front of us. So it'll be very interesting to see how this is all going to shake out. And I keep saying interesting. Sometimes I get into a word and I say it too much. Today I've been saying interesting way too much. So I'm going to try not to say the word anymore today. So Vic says, I've got trigger in bank ETFs and bank covered call ETFs. Yeah, absolutely. And let's see here. And some of the ones that Vic has, KRE, ZWA, ZWB. So yeah, a couple of the good BMO ones there. Whoops, grab this one here. ZWC treats me good. And let's see, stock market is the only place where people run away from a sale. Prepare, my friends. It is true. Sometimes people like it, the famous saying is that, when people are fearful, you should be greedy. And when people are greedy, you should be a little on the fearful side. People do it. A lot of people do it the wrong way. Like everybody knows to be successful in the stock market, you buy low, you sell high. But most people buy high and sell low because they give in to fear, uncertainty, doubt, FOMO, all of that psychological side. So it's just hilarious that so many people really, really do it wrong. All right. And Vic says, I actually converted USD to CAD. Well, you know what? Right now, as the Canadian dollar drops, it's not a bad time to be converting USD to CAD. And I run to it. All right. Whew. I am finally caught up. That is fantastic. So, if you guys we're getting towards the end here. If you guys got any questions or anything you want to throw at me, do it right now, and we'll get to that. While we're doing that, very quickly, we are heading towards another little milestone for the channel. So, we've been picking up subs pretty quickly. So, what's coming up next is 2,000 subs. That's probably not. I'm going to guess June, but I want to sort of throw this out there now. When I hit 1,000 subs, I did that drinking live stream. I'm not going to do another drinking one because been there, done that. But I want to do something else at 2,000. So far, one idea I've heard is I should do a hot wing stream where I pick up the 10 hot wing sauces and I take a hot wing sauce and put it on something. And then I answer financial questions after each one as we, move up the Scoville scale. So that's one idea. There could be a lot of sweating, maybe breathing some fire involved in that one. But that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about, there's that. And if you guys come up with a better idea, we'll throw it up for a vote. We'll put it in the community poll and we'll see what we have because I think that could be a lot of fun. So that'll be kind of interesting. All right. We do got a couple more questions in here. Let's see. It's going to be a great opportunity for folks. Absolutely. Your thoughts on Forex trading. I don't do Forex trading, but if you understand a lot of currencies, and if you understand the things that are driving currency prices internationally, you could probably make some good money off of it. I know a lot of people, I know a lot of day traders really love the Forex market for making themselves a little bit of money. So, there's money to be made in that market. I don't know a lot about it, but there is money to be made in it. Vic says, typically I buy low and hold, but tempted to take profit now and then, like CCL at 6 times 100 and then sold for $10. Never feel bad about taking profit. And let's see here. Holy banana bread. I said that one on the coffee crew. Are you making money yet? I make a little bit of money, not a lot. Honestly, I make about $100 a month doing this. That's what I'm being paid. And that's one of the reasons why it's one of those things like, when you guys are watching the videos, when you're, hitting that like button, all of those things sort of help drive people in, try to help build up my finances. Because, how many people do you know work for $100 a month? The little things like the super chats, we had a couple of them in here tonight. The memberships, all of those things definitely help. And, that's kind of how. Now, eventually I'm going to probably do some sponsorships, but I've already sort of committed to you guys, and I'm keeping that I am not going to do a sponsorship unless I absolutely believe in it, because that's just the way it is. Because I'm not going to, I've already turned down a couple of sponsorship offers for things that I thought were really dumb. And I will never do that. Never going to pitch you guys something unless I'm willing to believe it, unless I'm willing to invest in something. I'm not going to pitch it. It's just, my integrity is worth more to me than getting some fast cash from some crazy startup or some penny stock that is never going to get anywhere. So you will never see that on this channel. Absolutely not. Let's see. Mexican pesos are stronger than the Canadian dollar. Oh, interesting. See, and I did not know that. You really don't want to eat a Paccal chip. Well, I wouldn't eat the Paccal chip. What I would do if we did the Hot Ones one, I would basically I would order the Hot Ones kit. So it has the same 10 sauces that they do on that Hot Ones show for anybody who's watched Hot Ones shows. And I would, have some kind of meat or something that I could put some on each of them. I don't know if I do wings per se, but, that would be what it was. It wouldn't be like, some of them have Carolina Reaper in it, but none of it has, like, I've not eat a straight up pepper, or I'm not going to eat any of these weird, chips or nuts or the hottest nut in the world type thing. Smoke up a joint. I'm not going to do that. That's a fast way to get a demonetized stream right away. Okay, PE in the minus means normally if you have a PE, price to earnings ratio in the minus, it usually means they're not making any money. It usually means you've got some serious fundamental issues going on with their cash flow. So that's where you should be looking next, is look at their cash flow, see what's going on. Chances are a lot of times when the PE is in the negative, you'll also look at the EPS and it'll also be in the negative, because they are not making anything. Well, they might be making things, but they're not making enough to cover their expenses. So no profits. Yeah, exactly. Packy chip reminds me of a racial slur. Oh, PACU. Maybe it's probably pronounced PACU, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, okay, I can understand that. Holy banana bread. Yeah. Don't mispronounce that one for sure. See, don't try Carolina Reaper. Thanks, Candace. Having a fantastic evening. Great. I'm so glad to hear that. And Hugh says, hey, Candace, what do you think about VDY? I am a fan of Vanguard. I think Vanguard makes some very good ETFs. Now, if you're in the passive income game, you're probably not going to be going over to Vanguard. But Vanguard, for me, I find they tend to be more growth oriented, and they also tend to have very good management, and they tend to have very stable ETFs. So I do like Vanguard for that reason. All right. Let's see. Love your videos. Keep up the good work. Thank you. VDY is great. Yeah. Aid, you in Alberta? And you have a website, Aid and Pocky. All right, guys. We are now at the end of the line. So I want to thank you guys all for being here today. This was fantastic. You guys are simply awesome. And a big shout out to our 2 super chats. You guys rock. You guys are goats for sure. We'll be back here next week. We're going to do the same thing all over. We'll probably have a lot of really interesting news. So keep that going and keep thinking about what you guys want me to do at the 2000 subs stream, and we'll try to get that ironed out, because if we're going to do the hot ones, I need time to be able to order them and get them and all of that. So once again, guys, thank you for being here. We'll see you next week. All right. And you know what? Hopefully there's some great sales for you guys this week as we watch a nice red week on the market. All right, everybody, take care. We'll see you guys a little bit later. Bye, everybody.